This morning I'm going to be talking about soul consciousness and its effects. Before I get started, if I can collect my thoughts here quickly, as you listen to the words of the talk this morning, try to see if you can't, in your thoughts, dig more deeply into the significance of the ideas being presented to you. That would be one thing to think about. The second thing to think about is you might say to yourself, I don't feel like I'm an integrated person yet. I don't feel like my actions and emotions and thoughts are in harmony with one another yet, which means integration. Integration means when all three of our vehicles are working together so well that now we have created a complete and whole personality. People who have integrated personalities, then they have the next step to take, and that next step is to align with the soul. And the step following that alignment is soul infusion. What prevents our integration is, and this is what I'd like you to think about, is that you're going to find certain aspects of your personality life not yet having grown up. And because of this, they're holding us back. They're meaning these various obstacles and limitations that occurred at a certain moment in our life as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, or as a mature adult. Something happened that caused that aspect of our personality to become, let's say, frozen in fear, or frozen in confusion, or frozen in bewilderment. So, if you can imagine a graph chart of the personality, and one part of the graph is your physical body, then another part of the graph is the emotional body, and another part of the graph is the mental body. And there are certain bars going up in the physical body in this graph. And some of those bars or columns go up to 100%, meaning that the soul is now in complete control of this part of your physical nature. But then maybe over here and over here and over here, there's 2 or 3 columns that haven't yet attained that 100%. And those less than 100% is what keeps our personality from becoming an integrated whole. So I want you to be thinking about these things. Same with the emotional body, same with the mental body. As we become aware of these facts, that there are certain situations in our life that it's almost like stopped evolving. We could even say certain intelligences in our physical body stopped, or our physical nature stopped evolving. Or there are certain intelligences of our emotional nature that stopped evolving, and the same with our mental nature, that there were certain intelligences that stopped evolving in our mental nature. And this lack of movement is what is not only preventing our personality from becoming whole and beautiful and harmonious and terrific, it is also creating a major distraction to us from aligning or even recognizing that we have a soul, capital S, soul, meaning the higher self, that we don't recognize it. So these are the things I would just like you to be thinking about as I share this talk this morning on soul consciousness. Once you recognize yourself as a soul and affirm that you are a soul, affirm that you are a soul, that is when an immense change is going to take place in your life. And what will happen is this, and it may already have happened, and if it has, bless you. And you'll recognize this description. If you have not yet had this experience, you are going to. And hopefully the talk this morning will ignite this experience today or next week or sometime during the next major full moon festival, which is Gemini, which is the festival of Christ and the festival of humanity. So this is the description. This is what happens once you recognize yourself as a soul, affirm that you are a soul, and then realize the change that's going to take place. A great flood of light, a great flood of light is going to pour forth into your mind. It is going to clear away the age-long obstacles and illusions and thought forms that have kept you a slave of your past. Now, this doesn't happen when this, how can I say that? This doesn't happen in a blink of an eye. The first experience when this light floods into your whole mental apparatus, the mental sphere of your being, it's revelatory. That flood of light can last for a second, it can last for a day, it can last for a whole week. If it lasts for a whole week, you think you're going crazy. Because even when you close your eyes, that light is still there. When you try to go to sleep at night, the light is still there. It's almost a blinding light. It is so powerful, so intense. And in this flooding of light, the process of revelation is not necessarily bliss. It is a joy. And then the rest of your life, perhaps, depending on where your soul is in awareness, you will spend your life or a certain part of your life in very intense discipline, trying to clear out those long obstacles, illusions, and thought forms. Hey, you recognize them, you see them, you experience them, and then you have to decide, how do you eradicate them? But the light of the soul, that light that flooded your mind, is an igniting of the petals in the chalice, the petals in the egoic lotus. So it's very gentle with you in the beginning, gentle in as much as that you see yourself as a result of your meditation, of these lifelong, age-long obstacles that you keep bringing in, incarnation, incarnation, incarnation after incarnation, which causes us just to inch forward, inch a little bit in terms of evolving until that moment comes where you dedicate the life of your soul to really evolve, to really advance. And that's when you really need that flood of light pouring into that higher mind, igniting all aspects of the egoic lotus. All 9 of those petals are scintillating, are engaged in movement, color and sound. It's like this symphony of spaces taking place within your consciousness. And you're so anxious to get ahead that you almost become angry with yourself, that these limitations are still here. But this is a righteous anger. It's a beautiful, righteous anger because you're telling yourself, I have to get rid of this. Look at what I could do. Look at what I could be. Look how I can serve and change humanity's consciousness if I could just change my own and get rid of these things that I've been dragging in with me lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Okay, so what happens after we recognize and affirm that we are a soul? The first thing is that an energy begins to accumulate in us. And this is what we really want. We want that energy to accumulate in us. And because we're no longer going to misuse that energy, we no longer have any leakage due to wrong thinking and negative emotions. Now, this wrong thinking and negative emotions, these are these aspects of intelligences in our physical, emotional, and mental nature that stopped evolving, that became frozen at some point along the way. Okay? Are you with me? Okay. The result is now that we are going to continuously receive a precipitation of energy. Now, in this precipitation of energy, we would call it psychic energy. We do things to sustain that energy and other times increase the energy. And those things that we are doing, those things that we are engaging in is meditation. Studying, if it's only 15 minutes a day, of pulling out something beautiful like at Vesak. I shared last Wednesday night in our celebration that during that Vesak time, I opened up the book of Shambhala. I went down on the lower terrace of the parish house, it's just such a serene place because you sit down and you look out into all the trees and the pine trees, and we have a couple of wonderful deodar trees that are in the area of the lower terrace. And so you're looking out at nature, and it's so beautiful. And I opened up the book, read the first chapter for about the 10th time of Shambhala, and it just took me right into a stage of bliss. It was so wonderful, so beautiful. In that chapter talks about the sacred places of the Dalai Lamas. It talks about Mongolia and the sacred areas in Mongolia and the holy ones there. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful 15-minute experience. This is how we can sustain and increase and allow this energy to continue to precipitate. But then we have to do something with it, constructive and positive and beautiful. When things like this occur with us, we become a fountain of power. What kind of power? A power that heals. First, you're going to heal yourself. It's like you're going to take off the so-called cap in that tube that is holding that part of our personality back. And now that energy, that healing energy, the power that you have released within yourself is going back there and releasing it, freeing that part of your nature to move ahead. It also helps you uplift others and to become a leader, to lead others. And at this point, you become a true leader. The second, you become an agent of liberation. Liberation in your social and sometimes even in your national or international environment. This means that you are going to work to liberate the human soul from all inertia and glamour and illusion, which these elements are making our planet a place of sorrow, a place of slavery, even racial discrimination. I was listening briefly to a news report where this seems so old age now, but it's happening today in the state of Georgia. A high school finally had an integrated prom. Did you hear this story? Yeah, and you know how important proms are? You remember your prom? Well, believe me, today's prom is very different from the prom back in my day, where, you know, a lot of money is poured into preparing yourself for the prom. Girls are putting their prom dresses, which one should I choose, on their Facebook. I mean, this is a really, really big deal. Well, this year, this little town in Georgia, a small community that had not had an integrated prom experience yet, some of the 3 girls in the high school decided that they wanted some help because they wanted an integrated prom. Imagine that. So there is still racial discrimination taking place. But look at these 3 girls. Finally, they were successful. They raised funds through Facebook, you know, to see that this took place. And so here we are in CNN. Here they are on CNN. International, worldwide coverage of what they did. It's so beautiful. Liberations. We're also going to try to liberate people from their fear and their prejudices and their selfishness. Well, we can't do this unless we have liberated ourselves, or in the process of liberating ourselves, and understand that this liberation takes courage and endurance and insight and revelation and support and so forth. Now, this task at being an agent of liberation is going to put a tremendous pressure on your vehicles and cause you not only much suffering, but also joy. And you know what I mean if you're there, if you're experiencing this. Third, the third effect of soul consciousness is the creation of simplicity in living and sincerity of expression. I was just commenting with one of our volunteers in the office this last week. We were just barraged once again with, in this case it was Zone Alarm. If you don't know computer language and malware, software, and so forth, you don't know what Zone Alarm is. It's not even important. But we have so many computers now, and every single computer has to have Zone Alarm so that we're not hacked and we don't lose everything in the computers. Zone Alarm kept saying, this computer has to be renewed, this computer, that computer, this computer. Well, we have too many computers to know which is this and which is that. Spending all day long, this one staffer did on the phone, because you can't talk to anybody in person. And I said, what about the simple life? Let's just rip Zone Alarm out. You know, let's forget all of these horrendous fees, because everything costs so much money. You know, which then causes worry. Where is the money going to come from? What's going to happen tomorrow? Well, what happens tomorrow is your cell phone comes due, you've got to upgrade your contract, and it goes on and on and on and on. So we almost have to fight these days to have a simple life. And what I've discovered is it must start with our mind. We have to organize our thinking process. And the only way we can do this is by letting these certain, what I'm calling intelligences in our physical, emotional, mental nature that stopped evolving. We have to release them, let them mature, let them move ahead, you know, and not be afraid of this soul light, so that our mental process thinks simply, can reduce all the chaos that the outer world is trying to bombard us with, right? And not let the outer world bombardment create chaos in our thinking and in our personal life. Fourth, the next thing that happens when we have soul consciousness is a dynamic sense of communication and right human relations. Well, we cannot create right human relations until we are an integrated personality. Because somebody will come along and push that part of our nature that stopped evolving. And now we're going to react and react and react and get angry and want to fight back and take revenge. And look how nations are doing this. So it's not just ourselves as an individual, but it is culture. It is a culture of nations that are impoverished or have an inferiority complex. And if another country comes along to try to help them, they're going to be angry and say, no, we want to gain our independence. And they can't accept help. So how can we build right human relations? We must have the ability to integrate this personality life and then affirm that we are a soul. And my experience with this has been, even though we may not yet be totally integrated or aligned with the soul, now we have affirmed that we are a soul and we begin to function the way we have read that a person with soul consciousness lives. And then we quickly move into it. Once we have soul consciousness, we understand what it means when we say the sons of men are one and I am one with them. The sons of men are one and I am one with them. Fifth effect of soul consciousness transmutes us into becoming a magnetic and radioactive personality. See, so now our personality is like all aspects of our personality are now aligned. They're integrated so beautifully that we are now a whole person. And now we are aligned to the light that flooded us at some time earlier, maybe this lifetime, maybe earlier incarnations. But now we are ready to become infused, or what's called soul infused. And when that takes place, that's when we become transmuted into a magnetic and radioactive personality, and we do not misuse that energy any longer. People who will automatically group people around them to serve the cause of human liberation. Now, when this takes place, I think this is likely going to bring about a spiritual revolution when we have such people who they've not only affirmed that they are a soul, but they have had that flooding of light into their mind, and now they are so conscious. It's going to bring about a spiritual revolution. Even though it hasn't yet really happened, many of us believe that following the New Group of World Servers Week in December of last year, 2012, that energy is beginning to precipitate and inspire many aspirants and disciples around the world in such a way that they will now gradually appear in all fields of human endeavor. And they are going to inflame the world, let's say. This means that they're going to inflame the hearts and souls of all true humanitarians because they're there. We're here. We just need that flamethrower, that igniter to help us wake up and to see who we are. People who will then be charged with the spirit of greater dedication, aspiration, and sacrifice. These leaders, having achieved soul consciousness, they're not going to stop at any obstacle. And through stupendous, that's a Harry Potter word, through stupendous self-sacrifice, they will lead humanity as a whole toward a higher dimension of living. I really believe this. The introduction of this is set forth in part in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and also in the United Nations Charter. So go back and read those documents. To the degree that we approach our soul and become a soul, this is a capital S, soul. Okay, you can read it either way. To the degree that you approach your soul and become a soul is the degree that you become an independent human being and a being of greater cooperation. So now independence takes on a whole different role, doesn't it? Or a whole different definition of understanding. Now we're independent from those parts of our nature that stopped evolving. Now we're one whole. We're a complete whole. And we're now taking that next step. We're aligned to that flood of light of the higher self. And now we're in the process of fusion. Many people think that independence is conditioned by outer events, but I think we really understand and recognize that it starts from within. We cannot be independent until we break all these inner chains, these what we would call inner slavery and inner imprisonment. It's like, I hope this is a good visualization for you with, trying to see that our physical, emotional, mental body has different intelligences in it, and that, they're encapsulated in this tube as a result of some event that took place. And it may not be in this life. That's what makes it so difficult. We may have brought it forward from another incarnation, which means that cork is tightened even further in that glass tube. So we have to work harder to unplug it. Release the imprisonment. And if we can think this way, maybe it's a little easier that this is part of an element or an aspect of our personality that is hindering the evolution of our unfolding human soul. Okay. Once our soul is our unfolding human soul, once we as a human being is freed from inertia and glamour and illusion, then we enter into the freedom of our soul consciousness. Living as a consciousness in the higher self. And we become an independent, self-activated, and self-determined person. Once we can see, what we can see is once a person has gained a little education, once a person has gained just a little education and some knowledge, they become a dangerous person. Oftentimes they will lead their family or even their country to attack and into war. But once they become soul conscious, once we become soul conscious and soul infused, now these actions are not possible. because soul consciousness does not work for personal or group or national freedom alone. It works for planetary and global independence and leads to an everlasting sense of unity, because the soul is group conscious and stands for all humanity and its highest good. I think we are going to see that when the aspirants and disciples begin to appear, we will easily recognize the leadership that stands above racial discrimination, religious separation, dogmas, and doctrines. I think they will recognize one another as well. And I think that they're going to hold each other's hands from east to west and north to south. Then a new dawn will break upon humanity, and the orphan of the planets, which is mankind itself, will experience a great release of joy, which has been imprisoned within humanity for ages and ages due to human slavery and ignorance. So if we go back to December of last year, of 2012, there were 7 days of the new group of world servers that so many of us around the world celebrated. I think we're going to see we are indeed moving into an age of health and trust and joy and understanding and cooperation. 6, the soul consciousness will eliminate the fear of death. Just like the poem Verusian that Richard read this morning of that young lad that was killed in the Armenian genocide. It was like a diamond. And I would bet you he was not afraid of death. When we have soul consciousness eliminates the fear of death and the acquisition of a continuous radiation of sacrifice for one's fellow man. In other words, we're going to treat our neighbor, and this is from the teaching, we will treat our neighbor as one who is greater than ourselves. 7th, when soul-conscious leaders gradually move into all 7 fields of human endeavor, we have the potential to see a universal sense of harmlessness and a deep, fiery devotion to the flame of life in every form. From the flowers on the earth to the stars in the sky. Now think about this. December of last year, new group of world servers. If that truly marked a point of increasing light, of an awakening of aspirants and disciples from around the world, all over the world. You know, this process of awakening is a process, but it began just like that, and it started in January and February and March, especially March, and especially this month. Full moon of Aries, full moon of Taurus. Now we're moving into the full moon of Gemini. Gemini, which you may not know, is related to the heart of the sun. I don't know if you've studied much about esoteric astrology, but in the White Mountain group, we have a focus group that's studying on the esoteric astrology and the 7 rays. We know that Gemini is a constellation that is a Ray 2 constellation. Now you know that it is part of the heart of the sun, Ray 2. We're going to be flooded. We have the ability as aspirants and disciples as we move toward, or maybe we could say as the full moon moves toward us, the solar festival of Gemini, that we're really going to feel and experience the heat of the sun this year. And once we go through that full moon of Gemini as a group, as a world group, then the whole process begins to unfold through Gemini, or through Cancer and Leo and Virgo and Scorpio and Sagittarius, and Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces, and then back around, we start all over again. So we're going to be in the process of distributing this, as flamethrowers, igniting people to their possibilities, helping them to evolve, helping those intelligences that just didn't graduate yet from school, and we're going to help them release where their souls are stuck, so they can become whole human beings and whole nations and a whole world. And I'm going to close with this. Unfortunately, I have 5 more pages to get through, but we can do this later. But let me end with this. In Revelation, we read about the vision of St. John. I think perhaps we are moving into that time where it is going to come true. Let me read this. For St. John said, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And he shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor wailing, neither shall there be any more pain." Isn't that beautiful? So let me close with this. Oh, there's so much here. I wanted to share it. It's so amazing. I'm sorry for that, but I guess this is all, we really could absorb. Let me end with this. Don't sit so glued, and I'm speaking to myself too, to the television, to media, to the newspapers, to CNN, Jolene. Because what's happened now, as wonderful as it is to have worldwide telecommunication and instant access to what's going on around the world, instant access, our news still only knows how to report the horrible atrocities that are going on in the world. And not only just report the event, they report it over and over and over and over and over again until we become mesmerized. So I was thinking, let's bring music and art back into our lives, or to increase music and art. Let it play a more important role in our lives than CNN. We have enough evidence coming toward us of what's going on in the world. We're not going to, I don't mean to put our heads in a bag and not know what's going on. But maybe just listen to the news, 15 minutes a day. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. And I do hope I have time to get to the rest of this talk sometime, because talking about the inner presence within, it is our greatest friend. It is our greatest friend, bar none. It is so beautiful, and I really want to share that. And if I can't share it in another talk, we'll talk about it in class, because it really is inspiring.